You'll always be my day one.
Oh my gosh, I can't see. Cultural appropriation. What, where, when, why, how, everything you need to know about it. Hi, I'm Aku. This is the probably 32nd time I'm doing my YouTube channel intro because it's been so long, but so good to see you guys. And before we head on to today's video, make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell if you want to see more videos starring me. So for today's video, there's this keyword that I picked out, which is called culture. And I've been to about plus 17 countries at least, and every time I experience a new, every time I travel to a new country, I love experiencing their culture. At least that's my favorite part, apart from the food. You know I'm a foodie. So culture is definitely, I just feel personally for me, it's like throwing away your identity for once and immersing yourself into a different lifestyle or a different tradition, and being open-minded and also breaking that barrier and just trying something new and being adventurous for once. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite part about culture. It helps me escape my reality, and yeah. However, what is this discussion about cultural appropriation? Why are celebrities constantly in their music videos, in their Instagram posts, or even in their movies, why are they culturally appropriating something? Let's dig in more to find that out. Let's start with understanding what cultural appropriation is. So I've got a little list in front of me. And how can one exactly appropriate one's culture? Stealing, if it is something you're stealing. If it is a significance to someone else. Things that are used without reference at all. You're not referring to them and you're just stealing it right at hand. Probably you use it just an accessory or a trend that's happening in your daily life. The generation's progressing and they're using it as a trend. Or it may only be valued when it is a trend, like nobody takes notice of it, and it's only being noticed when it is an actual trend. When it is not authentic or genuine, whatever culture you're trying to embrace, but then it's not authentic and genuine. Someone's been putting you in that, or you've been doing it because it looks cool or it is nice. Using references wrongfully. So when you are trying to refer whatever you're picking up from a culture, but you're not exactly crediting them as well, yeah, that's kind of cultural appropriation things. And in other words, you think that it's cool enough to make money off of. Now that's very straight up to you guys, but that exactly is what cultural appropriation has been described by many of the articles that I've read or many videos that I've watched. Keep in mind that most of these things that I just mentioned are not always done unintentionally. Sometimes they can be done intentionally, but sometimes it can be taken as art. Now, this word art, it enables freedom of expression. Now, I'm no art student, but I know that there are various other forms of art that I'm obviously very included in. In art, you're talking about dance, you're talking about films, you're talking about everything that is quite creative, and when you look at how art is adapting to this freedom of expression culture, you're definitely looking at, like, are we utilizing this word or term art to overstep some boundaries, or are we using it as a self-defense mechanism over things that we are culturally appropriating and we don't even notice? So these sorts of arguments are just in my head, but at the same time, there are many forms of arts that just are relevant, to the things that we do. But yeah, for sure, thinking about delving deeper into this subject, cultural appropriation, it definitely opened my eyes on the things I do in my daily life, and I should be more careful and more understanding. On 15th June, only on akshitaaku.com, you will be reading an article written by me and solely me on how Hollywood has culturally appropriated throughout history. This is gonna cost me my first Oscar. Now there's another whole argument to cultural appropriation, which is victim mentality, or I've written over here, oversensitivity. And it is a sort of argument that makes people assume that whenever someone is implying that you are culturally appropriating something, and that one person is being either utilizing a victim mentality or is being oversensitive about something. Now, I have two arguments for this. One, it totally depends on who's perceiving what type of situation. Now, if we had to live in a world where one person was supposedly severely attacked by everything you do and called it constantly cultural appropriation, that would be very difficult to live in, because I think not everyone should be, quite offended by something you do. If that was the case, then probably taking out milk from my freezer would be offending, I don't know, farmers in a way. I don't know where this is going, but you get it, right? So another thing over this victim mentality and oversensitivity is that, in my perspective, if one is simply offending the culture while knowing that they're offending the culture, they're mocking it or they're being rude to it, then that's real cultural appropriation. I feel like simply accusing someone of stealing something when it could also be culturally sharing, and you not knowing the backstory and simply accusing, can also, kind of highlight you in that victim mentality, or you're being oversensitive about it. So I think people should be more careful about that. And also, that's specifically, to me, that's what cultural appropriation is. When someone's actually mocking or being rude towards one culture despite knowing it in their head and just being super annoying. If we had to constantly care about who's taking care, who's doing what, out of what context, that would just mess up each schedule, each routine, the world we live in, each task that we do every single day. It would just mess it all up. So I don't think people should be super sensitive about it either, because in most cases I've watched a few videos where there was this whole Katy Perry controversy going on when she wore a kimono, Japanese sort of traditional wear, for her award show, and then I was watching how Japanese people were reacting to it and they loved it. Honestly, for me, even when I went to Korea, at least that was one of my most fond memories, people were wearing around a palace, the Gyeongbokgung Palace. I don't know if I said that right, but yeah, one of the biggest palaces in Korea. They wore, like, many foreigners were wearing the traditional Korean wear, which was quite, amazing, because they could rent it out, they could take pictures, they could feel pretty in it, they could embrace the culture. And I think that is one way how people can promote other cultures, is by asking foreigners to do it for them. And now then that's a reference, and the way the Japanese people reacted to the Katy Perry situation was that most of them said that it is a good way for her to promote our culture. I mean, we're happy that foreigners are doing it, but I don't know about other Japanese. I cannot speak for other Japanese viewers, but I think the whole thing is that sharing cultures is not a bad thing. Seeing another person take a small part of your culture and embrace it is not a bad thing. But when you accuse them as culturally stealing it, or utilizing it for their benefit or their money cost benefit, then that's something that's super deep, and you'll have to look into their finances and if they're actually doing it for that reason or not, which is, if we had to go through each and every case in the world, it would take us years to get over this. Anyway, how can we exactly be respectful to each culture? How can we culturally appreciate each culture in the world in our own way, being respectful to them and being genuinely respectful to them? So first off, we can always, I've written it down. I've written it all down, honey. I've done my research for this. We can work with people from that culture upon whatever projects that we're doing and consult them in every way. We can show the story behind our creations and why we're doing it, what inspired to do it, Definitely give credits. Now, I think that's one of the most important things, where you talk a bit about it and then have a sense of what you're doing and where the backstory of this entire thing is coming from. Not only in your clothes, maybe in the daily knowledge that you share, in books, in the ways that you're doing stuff, you know, with whatever culture you're trying to embrace. We could probably show some of our representations more modestly and have a good idea of how we are choosing to represent this culture. And I feel like that mindset of not having to require others' validation over whatever you're doing isn't the best, because you know, you're trying to gain control over the situation, but sometimes it doesn't go that well, and you might turn out to be like one of the celebrities where TMZ is accusing you of cultural appropriation or something. The best way to actually culturally appreciate the other culture is by showing it on your platforms. Like, if you have social media and you're super popular, utilize it to actually, you know, promote them and appreciate it and talk about what you like about that specific culture. So yeah, that's my video. Don't forget to wait for my blog post on June 15th, because I will be having to talk a lot. Now, keep in mind that this is a sort of example that I'm giving, so Oscars don't, like Hollywood industry, don't cancel me. I'm just talking about history, and history is history. We all make mistakes, we all learn. In the end, we each interpret our own identities and cultures in our own ways. At least I believe that there is no right or wrong in a world with 7.7 billion people, with 7.7 billion other different opinions about many things. So it's super difficult, but of course, taking a stand to talk about it, I mean, this is what I've been interested into, and I've always been curious about it, you know. So I think taking a stand to talk about it, or even come up and share some opinions, could not be that bad. If you have any opinions of what cultural appropriation probably is, or how you culturally appreciate another culture, drop it down in the comment section. Let me see, let's have a discussion. For now, that is it. Thank you so much for coming and watching my video. Don't forget, June 15th, akshitaaku.com. See you guys there. Bye bye.